Good Monday morning, my peeps. This is Adrienne Talks, and I'm excited. I have one of my favorite guests here. This is her second time coming on. You gonna say hi and introduce yourself?
Hello. I am Sydney Swanson. I am this lovely businesswoman's child. And I've been on here once before talking about confidence. And today I decided to ask her to come back on again because I have some stuff I want to talk about.
Yes, and you guys loved our mother-daughter conversation about confidence, and Sydney learned so much that year about being proud of what you're doing and setting dates and setting goals to build your confidence. And I think this is going to kind of play along with that a little bit, don't you think?
Yep.
So what do you want to talk about?
Well, I'm going to start by how I thought of this. So my coach had us read a book about the 50 habits of a champion. And there were some that I was like, I'm obviously not going to do that. It was like making your bed every morning and like waking up early and like taking cold showers. I was like, yeah, okay, sure. But this one I really liked. It's called Celebrating the Small Victories or Small Goals. And I just think it'll help a lot of people when they're thinking about their big goal. Yes, obviously set smart goals. Do you know what those are?
Yes.
Like I don't know if you talked about those, but like it has to be time, like you need it to be like what you can get. But sometimes if you're looking at it, it seems really big. So if you break it down and you look at all your small things that you've already done, it can make you 10 times more confident going towards that big goal.
So like you're setting the big goal. So you had an example, right, of like a skill at cheer.
Yeah, so I wanted to get my round off back handspring tuck. I don't know if anybody knows what that is, but
I sure didn't.
It's basically just a flips. Just think of it that way.
Flips on the ground and in the air.
Yeah. And it's the first time I would be flipping without my hands. So it'd be like flipping without touching the ground, which is the skill that everybody always sees.
Okay. So how did you use this small victory to help you get to your big goal?
Well, I haven't gotten there yet, but I was at tryouts and I was throwing. So there's levels in cheer. Level 3 is the level that I want to go for, and I threw some of my level 3 skills. And I was also in Plano at like the big cheer athletics, and I was throwing a ton of skills, but I wasn't like celebrating each skill. Yes, I was excited, but I wasn't like actually thinking about how hard I worked to even get here. Like when I first switched gyms, I had to like relearn a back handspring.
And so when you think about that, like the learning the small skills, I thought you had some interesting points on this because it took you a lot of small skills from starting with a forward roll, which I remember was complicated when you were itty bitty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But even the way you say that, right? Like it took you getting through all of that to even get where you are now.
Yep.
So are you celebrating all those steps? Is that what you're saying?
Yeah. It's more or less that. It's more just you want to like cherish it. I think that's a good word. You want to like cherish each like not even milestone, just each little every day by day something that you think you did good, or like even like my coach one time, I got my back water back handspring and I celebrated it for like 0.3 seconds, and then I was like, okay, like it's just a skill that I had and I didn't have to I wasn't actually excited about it, if that makes sense.
So you had this big goal for a long time, and then all of a sudden you achieve it and you're like, oh yay, what's next?
Exactly. And that I think has just I've been doing that for a long time, and I think that at one point last year I was feeling kind of drained with cheer, but I think it was literally just because like I wouldn't celebrate something unless I hit like a big goal that I've been wanting to do forever, instead of being like, oh, I did this new stunting skill and I love stunting. So it's like, yeah.
Well, you got a couple of nuggets there that I feel like you can take away, because one is that there's a lot of different things as people are learning something or going towards a goal. There's many different steps, and it's not just the big step. Correct?
Yes.
She's making faces at me. She's trying to make me laugh. But I think that, so I find that interesting because you said you were worn out. And I think that's something that happens a lot in business too, which, because a lot of these people are running their own businesses, is you get used to the skills that you have. And I was kind of telling Sydney this, like I used to get really upset about the no's, and when I'd ask questions and people would kind of, say no or not answer. And as time has gone on, I've gotten over that, and it's not a big deal for me. But I don't really celebrate the fact that that's a skill, because there are other people who still look at me and are like, how do you do that? It was something I created. I learned over time.
Me. I could never. Well, I could, just not right now.
But it's the same as what you're doing, though. It's like, I didn't do it right away either, right? I had lots of times where I felt bad about myself, or things, weren't going the way I wanted them to. But as I practiced it and did it more, but now I take it for granted. So I think it's interesting when you say that, because I think a lot of people get burnt out because they quit realizing that they have created a skill that's incredible. Like, even, you had to redo your back walkover and all these different things that you redid.
It's actually a back handspring.
Oh, sorry. Back handspring. My bad. Sorry. My listening skills were not sharp.
No, it's okay.
So when you did all that, when you've done all that, are you still celebrating that now you do your back handspring way better than you ever have? Or do you take that for granted?
So I don't know how to put this, but it's basically, I don't really celebrate it anymore, because celebrating is kind of like a week-long thing. Like you're excited, you're celebrating, like oh my God, I did that. But after that, I feel like you shouldn't as much celebrate it as you should just cherish it. Just be like, I worked so hard for this that I should be proud no matter if I get to this high level skill or not, because I worked this far to get here.
So that's a good point. So, like you said, celebration, but cherishing is basically saying, I created this thing, whether it's a skill, whether it's, a business, this beautiful thing.
Grade.
Oh, we've got a sensitive topic.
No, we don't. I just got to be on my final, but I still have an A in the class. So
side note, she
anyway,
gets a little hyper focused on grades, is what I was going to say.
Yeah.
You should cherish the fact that you still have an A. See, I'm taking your words.
I don't like when my words are pinned against me.
But I think that, the other thing that you said that I thought was interesting when you were talking about, your coach telling you, hey, you're doing all this, it's being aware of that short celebration time, right? Like, you didn't even take the minute to, really go, wow, I've been working on this for how long? And how would you do that different now? Like, if you got a skill, what do you think you'd do different to maybe celebrate it a little more, or not move on so quickly?
I think a lot of people, when it comes to celebration, even if people do like having the eyes on them, it's kind of weird to have like everybody excited for you. So I feel like instead of like being scared of it and like being like, no, it's really nothing, like I've actually had it for a while, I just wouldn't throw it, I'd be more like, even recently with my standing 3, I'm just more like, they're cheering me on, there's nothing to be embarrassed. Like, embarrassed is a great word, because at first at tryouts, when like my coaches were like cheering for me because I did a skill I wasn't throwing, it was like I was embarrassed. Like, I was like, yeah, whatever. But I think instead of being embarrassed or scared or like, I don't know, just something like that, like, you should just be like, they're cheering for me, there's no reason to be embarrassed. And if people are making fun of you for getting cheered on, that's just weird. So they're obviously not,
Yes.
Or they're just jealous.
Well, and that's something, you need to be proud of you. I think that's always a funny thing when people say someone's bragging if they're excited about something.
Yeah. Some people will be like, they're being cocky or something. I'm like, no, they're just being excited.
Yeah, you're supposed to be. So that's such a great point. Is it something you had to do mentally, though? You had to shift from kind of being, you're almost the opposite, not the jealous person, but you're like embarrassed that you did something amazing instead of being excited that you did something amazing, right?
Yeah.
So I'm glad that you realize that, you can celebrate that. And when I think of my listeners out there, when you guys are doing all these different things, when you're growing your business, you get a new skill, that's incredible. And even though it might, again, I think it goes hand in hand with what you said, just because you get a skill doesn't mean you're going to throw it perfect every time. You're still going to have doubts sometimes. You're still going to have to adjust things sometimes. And that's all growth. That's all growth.
Mm-hmm.
And so while you're doing these little goals and having these small victories, you're also growing.
Yeah. And I feel like I could go on and on about like life lessons that you learn. And this is just one that's like kind of bigger with me that I've learned recently. But I feel like you learn a lot through life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And as you learn things, like I was even celebrating a small victory today when I was taking my Western civilization test and I got 107.
That is awesome.
Yeah. And
how do you even get 107?
I did a study guide with extra credit.
Extra credit. Okay.
But it was just like, instead of just being like, yeah, that's normal, I should get that, I was like, yes.
Yeah, because that's a lot of work that you did to get that. Mm-hmm. You didn't just get it. You didn't just sit at home and not do anything.
Literally.
And so I think that's part of it, is like we take for granted that effort we put in when other people might not, right? Like, I know you always say when you have time at school, you are getting things done. There's probably a lot of other people who don't take advantage of that time.
Yeah.
So you've been able to keep up with cheer and keep up with your job and everything else because you take advantage of your time and you respect your time fully. Mm-hmm. So all of these little victories, that's one of them. You should celebrate the fact that you're a smart girl that takes advantage of her time when she has it. Mm-hmm. I bet you don't normally do that, do you?
No. And I don't think you, my wonderful mother.
Oh,
I just want to say this for everyone to hear.
Okay.
Right? I am so proud of how far you've come recently.
Oh.
I think even mentally that you have been doing this without knowing you've been doing this.
Celebrating the small victories. Mm-hmm. It's a hard thing. I mean, she knows that, in business goes up and down. And when you have your ups and downs, you have to look at things a little differently. And Sydney and I have been talking a lot about it. And that even when my business was down a little bit, when I look back over the years, I'm way up from points when I only wished I could be where I was at now. Like it was a far, far dream. And so I think sometimes we have to stop and look at that. Like we're allowed to have ups and downs, but it's all the way we celebrate, cherish the places we've been and how we've got here and the skills we've developed along the way. Yeah. And so you, my beautiful daughter, has also helped me do that by having these conversations, because, sometimes we get stuck in our own world, and that's why you need other people to kind of give you a bird's eye view of the things that you're doing that are amazing.
Yeah. And okay, this is going to be a weird little, analogy. Is that what it's called? I don't know.
I think, but see. I don't know what you're going to say.
So it's, you know how people are saying climate change is happening, right?
Okay.
But if you look back over the span of the heat of the earth from millions upon billions upon trillions of years ago, we're actually not even at the hottest the earth has ever been.
Really?
Yeah. So if you go back, it literally has been like many degrees, like it's been like way, way, way hotter than it has been like recently. So people are jumping to conclusions, which you can do if you don't like look back on what you've done. Like you'll just be like, I haven't done anything. Versus if you look, you're like, I've actually done so much.
It's a great point to look at the overall, not just, it's very easy to take smaller, like you said, like, well, a month ago I was doing this and now I'm not, so I'm unhappy. But if you look at where you were 6 years ago, you've come a long way. I love that analogy. That's a good one. And it is an analogy.
That's what my science teacher taught me, who I got a B on their final.
Is that the one you just said? Oh, see? She's not happy about the B, but we're celebrating the fact that she walked away with a life lesson.
Well, celebrate a lot of knowledge.
That's all that matters.
I can't wait to give my brain a break.
Summer. Well, I love all the tips that you gave and so many different examples, but so if you could give my listeners a piece of advice, what would that be?
Probably just kind of like probably the title of this video. It's just going to be make sure to celebrate your small wins and not just look at a certain portion of time. Look at your overall. Love you.
And I want to go along with that because what I like about that, you kind of said it a little earlier too, is that you need to be proud of yourself. So like when you were saying like other people kind of embarrassed you when people were excited for you. But maybe some of it was you weren't taking time to be excited for yourself, right? Like you need to, the number one thing in life is not what other people think of you, it's what you think of you. So you being proud and celebrating these small victories, that's what matters. That's what's pushing you to the next level because you are proud of you. And that's what it takes.
Bars.
What does that mean?
It's like in rapping when somebody has a good line.
Oh,
bars.
I just got bars, people.
Oh God. Let's not.
See, I just can't stay cool very long, everybody. Just doesn't work. Well, thank you, Sydney, for coming on.
Mwah.
I appreciate
Anytime.
you.
I have some good ideas for the next one.
Oh, there you go. Sounds like she'll be back on.
Oh, always.
All right, you guys, until next week when Yo Adrienne talks, realize the power is within you.